Okay, hello everybody. This is episode 4 of the Detroit Hustle podcast, and today we're going to be talking to a dear friend of mine. We met in high school in Detroit, and he is now give me the position, your title.
Director of bands at Morehouse.
Yes, director of bands at Morehouse College. For all of you people who are familiar with the whole band culture, that's a really big deal. We were both in marching band at our high school, Cass Tech, so that's like a really big thing, and I'm really proud of him. He's made many strides in his career, and I've been following him along the way, and so I want to give him a chance to share his journey with us. So welcome, Chad Hughes. Hi, Chad. How are you?
Doing fine.
Awesome. So we're going to get down to the nitty gritty. We're just going to get right into it. Don't need to waste any time with the pleasantries. So just introduce yourself to the audience. Just give us a little intro about where you're from. You can talk about your neighborhood, just how you came up, who you are, and where you come from.
Where I come from? Well, technically I was born in Lincoln Park, Michigan, at Outer Drive Hospital, which is no longer here. There's a church there now. It actually sits right on the border of Detroit and Lincoln Park, right at Detroit Outer Drive, 4th Street, 75. Grew up between Southwest Detroit, and where my grandparents still are to this day, and the Russell Woods neighborhood near Dexter and Davison area. I went to Bernie Elementary School. Then I went to Ann Arbor Trail Middle School. Then Immaculate Heart of Mary. Then Cass Tech.
Woo! CT.
Greatest high
class
school.
of 95, correct?
Class of 95 in vocational music.
Vocational music.
So yeah, that's my Detroit life. And honestly, what was great about
I think we got some technical difficulties. I don't know if you can hear me, but you're frozen. Your video's frozen.
Oh, okay. I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, you froze for a second there. You were getting ready to say something, and I don't know how far you got.
Oh, okay. I said the cool thing about DPS, my teachers were excellent. They were just really caring, really investing, and make sure we were proficient in whatever that they were teaching.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I mean, me coming from Bates and then to Cass, that was like the creme de la creme, as far as I'm concerned, in the city. And it's just like, those were public schools. They were not magnet, they were not private, but they had that caliber of education that they offer students. And I just think it's amazing that we had that. And because not a lot of inner cities get that opportunity. So I think we're very fortunate that way. Wouldn't you say?
I wouldn't change anything about my time in DPS. It was amazing.
Okay.
I loved it. So yeah, the neighborhood, Dexter and Davidson, is pretty much, I moved over there when I was 5 years old and pretty much stayed there to about roughly to 2006.
Okay.
When my mom moved out the house in 2010, 2011. And it was just a wonderful time. And it is amazing how people, now talk about DPS. But if it wasn't for DPS, I would not be where I am today.
Okay, and good thing. So we're going to segue from that. You stopped at Cass. Where did you go to college? And, take us through your journey of education, because you have a PhD now. You are a doctor.
So from 95 to 2000, I was at the University of Michigan, where I majored in music composition. And then subsequently, I started teaching in DPS from 2001 to 2006. I was primarily at Cody High School, over near the Herman Gardens off of Southfield and Joy Road.
Okay.
Then, from there, I started teaching in Topeka Public Schools, where I was the first um, African American high school band director in the history of the uh, school district.
Now we're talking about Topeka, Kansas, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And then, excuse me.
Oh, bless you.
And then from there, I did my master's in music composition, where me and Chris Exum were also the first Blacks to receive their master's degrees in music from Kansas State.
Wow. And that was what year?
2011.
2011. Okay. Wow. Okay. Keep going.
And then there, I got my PhD in music composition and orchestral conducting from Louisiana State University. Then taught a year at Lane College, and then came to Atlanta, Georgia, to where I am currently, to Morehouse College.
Okay, so did you always want to teach at an HBCU? Was that the goal, or is that just where you ended up landing?
When I was in high school, I used to have dreams of teaching at HBCU. But I always knew I wanted to write music. I didn't really know how to marry the two at all. Because one, there was a strong part of me that wanted to go to New York. There was a strong part of me that wanted to go to LA. In particular, to go to New York to pursue a career in jazz.
Of course.
And then the LA was to do film music. But what kept me from going to New York was I had some friends that were a year ahead of me, and they were telling me how they were staying in apartments in New York, and how expensive it was with just 7 people in a apartment. And I said, oh, I don't think I want to live like that.
And that's funny because our guest before the last was Angela Lewis, and she told her story of how her and Dominique Maruso moved to New York together. So they took on the challenge, and you were like, no, thank you. The New York life was not for you.
No, it wasn't. Only because, well, for theater it's a little different because that's pretty much the place you can do it at.
Right.
Whereas with jazz, there were plenty of opportunities for me in Detroit.
Okay.
And the salaries that you were to get in New York were not livable wages, basically.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's important.
So it was easier for me to come back and teach in Detroit and play. I played with my band director's big band, Benjamin Pruitt.
Yes.
Arguably the most influential person in my life. And I started playing with his big band, and I realized I was happy doing that.
Okay.
Plus the wage I was making for DPS was a pretty decent wage. And I realized how much performance opportunities I had in Detroit. So that's what also kept me from going to New York, because the goal is to be able to play.
Right.
And I found myself playing and writing. I was writing for musicals here. I was an MD in several shows here.
Which is musical director, for those that don't know.
Musical, yeah. And so I was like, wow. And so I made the decision not to go to New York, mainly because of that. But I think the other difference is, I think had I not started teaching, I probably would have still gone to New York.
Okay. Now, was teaching what you always wanted to do, or did that just kind of come along with the path you were on?
Public school teaching was not necessarily what I wanted to do.
Okay.
But I did it, and then fell in love with it.
Awesome.
And it kind of stayed the course. But in the back of my mind, I knew I really wanted to go there, because that's where even though I knew about the living conditions there, yeah, I knew it was like, oh, there was still this edge, like I gotta make it in New York, gotta make it in New York, or I gotta make it in LA.
Right.
Then I found out LA was more expensive than New York. You know, I was like,
yeah, they're pretty bad equally.
So it was interesting that you bring it up because those people, the people that Angela and Dominique, that were contemporaries of them from Cass, you know, they all have great acting careers. You know, Dominique is get her shows
Playwright, yes,
all over the place. You know, Angela is on TV. Her husband is on TV. You know, Nico and Joel, they're all doing great things. Cornelius, who was younger, I think he was in class of 2000, I think. So all of them are doing very, very well. And so what I found that I love playing, but I probably love writing more than I love playing.
Okay, so I mean, I'm assuming that the movie music writing is not out of the picture. It's just you're not going to do it in LA.
No, it's not out the picture. It's really hard to get, you know, really, you know, with the A-list movies, really, unless you're with a A-list producer.
Okay.
Or writer. So what you have to do is you have to find someone that believes in you, and they stick with you. So whenever they make it, you know, you're right along with them, which is usually how it works.
Okay.
And unfortunately in Hollywood, a lot of times African American authors aren't always getting those abundance of opportunities to get the A-list budget, you know, to actually do scoring, you know, because with Black movies, we tend to do soundtracks more than we do scores.
Right. That makes sense.
So it's really, really hard to get in. But I have not lost faith. I've just done some other things to do with my writing. But, you know, I don't have any regrets because I love the students that I've influenced at Cody, at Highland Park, at Eisenhower Middle School, Chase Middle School in Topeka, Kansas. Highland Park High School was actually in Topeka also. Then at Lane, my time working as a ranger at Alcorn State University while I was in school. And now I'm Morehouse College, Spelman College. So, you know, I really enjoy doing it. I mean, I'm at work now because, well, we just got done.
We see your desk.
So I really enjoy it. So I don't have regrets. I never thought I'd be in Atlanta. I always thought I would stay in Detroit. But the reason I left Detroit wasn't because I just wanted to go to Atlanta. I got laid off.
Okay.
When I got laid off, that's when I moved to Kansas. Then subsequently, I got my master's degree. Then I got the PhD. And now I'm teaching at a college level.
Right. So let's segue a little bit away from the education track and all of that. You also published your own work. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? He's putting up the CD for you all who can't see it.
And the book.
And the book, yeah.
So what I found was the music industry is just trash, basically. You know,
okay, to put it mildly.
You know, it's really hard to make a living. The streaming rates are sin. So it's really hard to make a living off of the sale of your music. So what I found was, you know, self-publishing. And also I say, well, books are timeless if it's a good book. People still reading Great Gatsby. People are still reading Invisible Man. People are still reading Charlotte's Web.
Right.
A Tale of Two Cities, which I kind of got the title of my book from. But all these great works people read for hundreds of years. So that kind of gave me the concept of the concept album, which was really in R&B music, was really made popular by Marvin Gaye and Stevie Wonder. Marvin Gaye was his What's Going On album. Stevie Wonder, his collection of albums basically from 1970 to 1976 were all concept albums. And that's basically where all the songs kind of go with a particular theme or subject matter. And so what I said was, well, you have that concept album, you have the soundtrack to movies, you have the soundtrack to TV shows, you even have the operas, you have musicals. So I said, well, what happens if you have a soundtrack to a book? And that's how I came up with the idea of a novel, which is basically an amalgamation of novel and musical.
Okay. And what's the name of it? You've held it up, but no one heard. And the name of the novel is?
A Tale of Two Fools.
There you go. And give us just a brief synopsis of the story for those who have never heard about it and want to know more.
Well, I'll read the blurb to make it easy.
Sure.
Eleazar Eli Brooks is a music major whose main objective is perfection. He works tirelessly in a practice room to become the best trumpeter in the world, but his dedication to music makes him a social hermit. Despite his focus, he unexpectedly falls in love with young Alexandra Hilton, a young MBA student who is being courted to work for a major marketing firm post-graduation. Although she loved Eli, Alexandra realized that her life may be better by returning to her ex-boyfriend Harrison, a six-figure executive who can give her everything she desires. Will she find true love with Alexandra, or will she return to her former lover?
Oh, that's juicy. It makes me think of A Different World with Byron and Dwayne.
Ooh. Well, I love A Different World. And I can't necessarily say A Different World was inspiration to this, but Different World was definitely inspirational in my life.
I mean, yeah, you ended up teaching at HBCU.
Yes. And the exterior shots for Different World were shot at Spelman College right next door.
Oh, they were? Okay, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. But I saw, that's human.
Right. I thought when I was at FAM, I expected the pit, and we had what was called the Orange Room. And it wasn't really like the pit, and I was a little disappointed, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, our union was kind of pit-ish, but it was just a collection of a series of restaurants. But there was an area we could always find the Black students, and I thought it was just really cool to see that.
Right.
We had a pit in the basement of almost every dorm. So, late night food meals, so that was kind of like our pit. We would play cards there, study there, Bible studies. Everything was done in the basement of Berkeley. So many great times.
Okay, sounds fun. So let's transition a little bit more. So where are you headed next? Is there another novel in the works? Are you composing some exciting things that maybe aren't quite done yet? Or are there some projects that you completed previously that you're kind of cooking up to release at a later time?
Yeah, I'm working on a sequel. It's called Hindsight is 2020.
Okay.
What I can say about that one is this: for those who read this one, if you enjoy A Tale of Two Fools, you're gonna really enjoy Hindsight is 2020. I won't say what it's all about yet, but when you read A Tale of Two Fools, you're gonna say, "Oh, that was a really sweet story." When you read Hindsight is 2020, you're gonna say, "Ooh, no, she didn't. No, she didn't."
Okay.
You're gonna just really, you're just gonna really enjoy it, and you're gonna enjoy the music too.
Okay. And so, when are you gonna? You have an idea of when it'll be finished?
I'm shooting for September 2020.
Okay, so we've got a little ways to go.
The book is actually done. I'm just actually in the process of recording the. Sorry. I'm in the process of recording the music as we speak.
Okay. So we got something to look forward to next year.
Absolutely.
All right, awesome. And then where is A Tale of Two Fools available for those listening that are interested in checking it out?
You can go to Amazon.com and buy it on the Kindle there. I'm actually, hopefully, it'll be available on Google Books today.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
I just had someone ask me about it today, and I completely didn't even realize about Google Books. So I'm up here now trying to put it on there. That's what I had
Okay.
for the interview. You can actually buy hard copies by going to my website, www.sirwickmusic.com.
And that's SIRWICK, Sirwick.
Music.com.
Music. Okay, sorry. Sirwickmusic.com. Okay, so now I want to kind of transition back a little bit. You talked about DPS, so you kind of touched on this, but like in your experience, what makes the D so special? And you can reference teachers or certain experiences or just those really impactful things that happened to you in an earlier stage that set you on this path that you're on.
What makes it so special is that people, at least for me growing up, the people there know who they are. And they're generally, the people in my life were very, how can I say this? It was a very strong community. It was a tight-knit community.
Mm-hmm.
And even though in my little microcosm, I was with a lot of musicians, some who have continued to play music, some who don't. But being in the band specifically, those are friendships that were formed that we still talk to almost every day. Or whether it's on the phone, whether it's through text, whether it's through Facebook, whether it's through GroupMe, whether it's through email. It's a very, very strong community. So what made it special for me is when I going to the high school that I went to, there was always a underlying movement to achieve, and not to achieve something maliciously. You know,
Okay.
there's some people that have gained wealth or notoriety, attention by stepping on other people's toes. But the social group that I'm around, that I'm continuing around, they're not really malice at all. They're like, hey, man, how you doing? If you're trying to be a doctor, they say, hey, you studying for the MCAT, or if you want to be a lawyer, hey, they studying for the LSAT, or how's your practice going? Or, hey, how you sell records? You got your videos out? It was a very, let's do this mentality.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Non excuse tolerating community.
Very supportive.
Extreme. So, like, I just looked at, to give a shout out to my boy LeVar, where his wife just had this sweet article published about her, Cherie, and he just made like top 40 under 40 in the state of Wisconsin. He's just doing great things. Damian Gabriel and his wife Alicia, with his nonprofit, the Gabriel Music Society, which is talks about the life of the Gabriel family from New Orleans, but it's also a group that helps give instruments to kids who need it, provides lessons for those who need it. Just so many people that are just about achieving, not settling. So, and not to mention, on top of just tons of doctors and lawyers and I'm talking to one right now who's awesome.
Thank you.
So, and so what makes it it's just special. So just break it down, like it was first to, and just what pushed just to be successful, and then just going to college and us pushing us like, hey, we got to graduate, And what people don't understand is it's not that going to college makes you better. What college does, it just opens up other doors that may not otherwise be open. Nothing's a guarantee besides taxes and debt.
Right.
But it just opens up other doors. And see, I didn't graduate with teacher certification, but because I had a degree, I was able to start teaching because that's part of the rules in Michigan. You had to have 90 credits at that time to substitute. Well, since I already had a degree, that made them easier to hire me and to get teacher certification later. Well, wound up moving, and then, but because I had a degree, I could start, teaching in Kansas to work towards my certification. And then I decided to get my master's degree, which opened up doors for me to teach college.
Right.
Because my band director, and two people in my life really pushed me to get my master's. My band director, who I spoke about earlier, Mr. Benjamin Pruitt, and a friend of mine, Anthony Washington.
Okay, yeah, I know him too.
Who was like, Chad, when you gonna get your master's? And he was working on his at Norfolk State in composition actually. And he stayed on me. He talked about me like a dog every week. Oh, seriously, it was years.
Wow.
And so then he was like, all right, now when you can get your doctorate. And I said, well, since I'm already at school, I might as well stay and get it.
Right.
I could talk all day. And then my family. The neighborhood that my grandmother moved to, even right now my grandmother is in her 90s, there's a lot of people over there that were still there, when my dad was in elementary school.
Wow.
And so it was a very family-oriented neighborhood. So when they see me or I tell them my last name, they will say, oh, yeah, you Arnold's boy or JK's grandson, because they know because of that type of community that they grew up in. So part of the reason I made Detroit special was the choices that my grandfather made and where he lived and where he raised his kids. And then me being a part of my dad and my aunt's life and them taking me around and showing me things. And then their friends encouraging me. My aunt's best friend stays about an hour and a half from here. So when I go to Athens, I see her. So she's from Detroit. So you see what I'm saying? And she's also a Cal State graduate too.
Oh, awesome. So
it's just the people there, they just know who they are. And they just want to be successful, in non-malicious mannerisms. So I just love it.
Awesome. So, and that also speaks, I'm sorry?
So yeah, go Pistons. Let's make this playoff run.
So what I was going to say was that also speaks to the title of this podcast, the Detroit Hustle podcast, is that you're speaking of that hustle towards success and achievement, which I think a lot of Detroiters possess.
Absolutely. The thing I think the biggest thing that, let me say set on the critical side, I think a lot of us don't necessarily have access to capital that really keeps us from taking something sometimes to the next level.
Gotcha.
But the work ethic is present because we saw our parents work hard, or we saw our grandparents or our great-grandparents work hard. So because of that work ethic, other people may see what we're doing, which then can give us access to that capital we need to take things to another level.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
And so the vast majority of my friends have an excellent work ethic. I think about people like Kamal Smith, who, doing big things with his film writing and his TV production. He has an impeccable work ethic. Kenneth Gill, Joe Bonus just released his album last week, has an impeccable work ethic. Siobhan Johnson, has an impeccable work ethic. Lawrence Patrick, doing big things in California right now. He's actually, I think, the director of Northwestern University's campus in California.
Really? I didn't know that. I know when I was in New York, he was at Jazz at Lincoln Center, and I was working with him a little bit while I was looking for work. So, yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, also he's a FAMU alum. So,
correct.
And so, he just has an impeccable work ethic. One of my close friends, Marcus, who's a vice president of social media at Donor, and also teaches adjunct at University of Michigan. Impeccable work ethic. Um, so so when you get that, so when someone likes that gets access to the capital, then they're going to take off. And I think what's really going to happen, like our generations, especially those who have kids, they're going to have even more access to the capital, and they're going to be even bigger than us because they see the work ethic that we've done, and they will more than likely have that same work ethic. And
Right.
because of that access with the work ethic, that's going to take this next generation even to higher levels.
And what you're really speaking about in more, verbose terms is legacy. This is all about legacy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, because I saw my band director work ethic, and I wanted to be like him.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got to college, probably the next influential person in my life was James Aikman, and I saw how hard he worked. I actually did my dissertation on him, and so I said, okay, I have to work. Not just to be successful, but just to make sure I have a thorough understanding of the subject that I'm in. So I thoroughly understand what I'm trying to do, and I understand what it takes to get to that point.
Right. So like
Um,
mastery.
yeah. So exactly what it is. And the thing is, when you have a dream is the end of the road, but the journey is the pathway to get there. So when you have that, when you make the journey, you see the struggles. And it's not all struggle, but you see the pathway that you have to take in order to get there. And I think a lot of people from Detroit, we understand the journey that we need to get to a place. And we don't mind taking that journey.
Gotcha. Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think that's a really good way to summarize it. So thank you for that. I like how in depth you went. You're the only person that really went super deep on that particular question. So I'm
Oh, you're
glad that you
welcome.
had that to offer us because that was a different type of answer from a different perspective. So thank you so much. You've enriched the program. But now's the fun part. So we're gonna do what I call the Fab Five. And this is a throwback reference to U of M's basketball team of old. And it's going to be 5 different questions about your favorite Detroit things.
Okay.
So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So number 1, your favorite Detroit place or landmark?
Favorite place? Well, besides my grandmother's house, because there's like.
Okay. I mean, if that's your answer, but I was thinking of something a little more popular.
You know what's interesting? Believe it or not, this is kind of going to be a weird answer. My favorite place is going back pretty much to my high school. Pretty much. Even though they have a new building, so it's not quite the same. I don't have that emotional attachment there, but I love going back and seeing the newer generations of cast technicians there and just offering something to help them out, whether it's giving lessons, whether it's giving musical supplies or writing music. I really love going back to my alma mater.
Lewis Cass Technical High School.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So that was good. That was a different week. We hadn't gotten that one before. Number 2, your favorite Detroit restaurant or dish, past or current. So it can be something that doesn't exist anymore that you loved in the past. It could be something new. It could be an old staple that's just always been there. And it can be the restaurant itself or just a particular dish.
Well, currently, I love getting me a shawarma from Bucharest.
Okay.
That is go-to number 1 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Historically, there were so many good soul food places that aren't there anymore. Used to be the Blue Fox on Warren. I used to love going there. Maddie's Soul Food on Dexter, which is no longer there. Yeah, so many places. It was a Chinese food place on Jade Garden on Livernois 7 Mile. I used to love going there. So, but those places aren't there.
Okay.
But I think he said that they just retired, and so that's why that restaurant isn't there. So,
Gotcha.
but currently, and of course, same thing is with Coney. You know, everybody who grew up going to Detroit has their favorite Coney Island.
Mm-hmm.
So mine is on Livernois or Nassus, but now I think it's LA Coney Island now.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's not quite the same like when I was growing up, but that's my favorite pass. But Bucharest all day, that's my go-to.
Okay, so you heard it here. Bucharest, is it Bucharest Grill or is it
Yeah,
just
Bucharest, yeah.
Bucharest
So I
Grill?
either go to the one on Michigan Ave. I actually go to 3, Michigan Ave, Jefferson, or Livernois. And sometimes I go to one on Phuket too, if I'm going to Wayne State.
I didn't know it was that many of them, so you just taught me something.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now number 3, your favorite downtown event. That could be festival, fireworks, auto show, parade, but it has to be something that occurs only in downtown Detroit.
Okay, only in downtown.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is going to be really interesting, but I love championship parades. And
Yes.
I love those because it's one of the few times where you see everybody getting along.
Okay.
And when you're in it, you know it's special.
Right.
Because it's not guaranteed next year. I think sometimes people take the Thanksgiving Day parade because it's every year.
Right,
But,
right.
you know, when the Pistons won their championship, which is the last championship we had, which was 2004, I believe.
Yes, it
Everyone was
was.
so happy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a
Mm-hmm.
special, special time.
Yeah.
And so I love those parades down Woodward.
Woodward, yeah. Actually, when they won that championship, I was living at Lafayette Towers when I was in law school.
You
So,
were.
yes. It was so crazy when they won, the night that they won the last game, I was at my parents' house on the east side, deep east, and I'm going home and I get totally just standstill traffic, like right before I'm trying to get. Yeah, it was bad, and but it was nice that I could walk to the parade because I was so close. So it was, the pros and cons.
Side note, speaking of the East Side, I used to love that it's not there no more. So mad about it. But another favorite restaurant was the Big Boy on Jefferson.
Well, yeah, that's historical too, right?
Yeah, they just recently closed that one too. Like that was my other staple. I would go to Bucharest for lunch, go to Big Boy on Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't been. Wait, no, I'm lying. When I was home for my class reunion this past summer, I actually did end up meeting a friend at Big Boy, and I had a slice of pie. So I hadn't eaten Big Boy in years. So yeah, I did get a little taste of that back in August. All right, so we're getting down to the end. I think you've answered this already, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Mm-hmm. Your favorite Detroit sports team?
This is tough. I think that's what made Detroit people so special because we're the most loyalist, but nothing in return. It's hard because I think everybody has a equal love for all of them. Because I love my Lions, but don't even get me started on that. I love my Red Wings, but they can't seem to get a winning record.
Oh my! And they used to be just unbeatable.
Yeah, I don't know. It was like 26 years in a row, but they let Scotty Barman go to Chicago, and then they started winning. And so, I mean, I love them all. I can't just pick one. I love them all.
Okay.
I love the Lions. I love the Pistons. I love my Tigers. They can't get to the playoffs either. Yeah, so I love them all 4 of them. But
okay, that's fair.
One day we can get a championship out of them.
Right, right. And I don't tell mine, but I think I do have one. But for the show, I love them all too. So we'll be on the same page today.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then at number 5, your favorite Detroit memory. And what I mean by that is a memory you had that is so Detroit, you could never forget it.
Oh, that's so many of those. So many. I think one of the first was, I vaguely remember because my mother really wasn't big into baseball, but I do remember the Tigers winning the World Series.
Oh, 84. Mm-hmm.
And then I remember the Bad Boys and then participating in both their parades. So that was very Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a little more national. There's some other memories like first day is hot and Belle Isle is packed.
That was the other bad thing about living downtown is I remember I was trying to go to CVS to get deodorant on like a Saturday night in the summer, and I could not get down the street.
Yeah, to Dickerson and Jefferson?
No, I'm talking about downtown, like trying to get on with the, I think it's a CVS right there, like near
Shane.
Shane. Yeah, and I was trying to just get to the CVS, could not do it. Took me forever.
No, you can't get it. It was you always knew the first hot day Belle Isle was going to be packed. And I pulled around one time and got caught in there. I was like, only in Detroit on a hot day, everybody trying to get to the aisle.
Yep, everybody.
So
or just be on the strip and be headed there, but not quite make it.
What's so funny is Larned was never packed, but Jefferson was just
ridiculous.
It was just insurmountable.
Right.
I mean, and I remember one time being older. I'm like, I think I'm in high school. I'm like, I want to get on the giant slide, Another, Boblo Island. It's just so many things that. Yeah, but I think the So Detroit would have to be getting caught up on the strip before you get to Belle Isle. Oh my God. And trying to get off.
Go ahead.
I fooled around. We probably not done, but one time I fooled around and Memorial Day weekend. The Sigmas were having, I'm a member of Phi Beta Sigma, for those listening, and they always had their blue and white party or barbecue in Belle Isle. And it was so hot that day. Everybody was on the island.
I'm loving this because I want to say you're number 4 so far, and almost everyone has mentioned Bob Lowe, the giant slide. Like, it's just so many recurring things. I just love that these things are so solidified in our histories and our memories. It's so neat, and to hear it over and over again is really cool because, part of the point of this whole podcast is to shine a positive light on Detroit because of the reputation that it's had in the media is not so positive. And especially for those who have never visited, I hear some of the worst commentary from people who have never been there. And I find that so odd because how can you speak on something you've never experienced? And so I just felt like this would be a great way to highlight those positive things and just to show that even though there might be kind of a shadow cast on Detroit, it's a really great place, and it has produced some phenomenal individuals, including yourself. You're welcome. So I just want to thank you for sharing your time today. I know you're a very busy guy, and the fact that you took this time out to talk to me, it means so much. And I hope that the listening followers, audience, everyone appreciated your different perspective on Detroit. And I hope you're also listening to all of the other episodes so you can kind of get more of a feel. I'm sorry.
I said I shall.
Yeah, so that, and not just you, but the other people listening, because it's like a patchwork. It really ends up being more of a a whole product. It's not just about one episode and they do weave together a lot. There are a lot of connectors. You mentioned some people that I actually intend to interview in the future. So that's kind of cool. It's like foreshadowing in a sense. And so I want to thank you again. I'm going to let you go because I know you've got things to do. And that was my timer. I try to keep a specific time so I'm not holding you guys too long. But I so appreciate this. Thank you so much, Chad Hughes. We are so glad to hear from you. And that's going to wrap up this episode of the Detroit Hustle Podcast. Join us next week. Bye.
Bye.